First person voted out of Survivor 46. Jelinsky, that's three. That's enough. Need to bring me your torch.
Hey, Jelinsky, it is so great to talk to you. Sorry it's so soon. What an episode. I have to imagine it was a little tough to watch it all back. As you're going through, what was the biggest thing that stuck out to you as a viewer this time?
Wow. I mean, as a viewer, what a great question. I would say just how surprising the narrative is. Like, watching it as a fan, you forget it's a whole story. Like, as a player, now this question is nuanced now that I've played. You I expected the whole premiere to be about me. I sound like an asshole saying that, but that's just what I thought. But I forgot there's 17 other people on the beach with me and five other people in my tribe. So of course, the premiere was nuts. A lot to unpack there.
You left the game saying that it was a total blindside, that you could have sworn that it was going to be Jess. What were the big moments while watching it back where you were like, oh, that was a sign I should have known at that point that the tides were not in my favor?
Yeah, I mean, from the sweat task, like I was just dealt a bad hand of cards, and something I like to point out is Q actually was the person to suggest quitting the sweat task. We were about an hour and a half in, and I had to go get shoes because I was doing it all barefoot, and I was walking up and down the sand and walking on the coral, and my feet were super torn up. In fact, like I couldn't wear shoes for a month afterwards. They were just infected and scarred and cut up. It was bad. So when I come back after getting my shoes, Q told me, he goes, Jelinsky, I don't think we're gonna finish this. Do you think we should quit? And I'm like, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, bro, and if you don't hold it against me, I think we should quit because I mean, we just about had the same amount of water in the two jugs, and I know I was struggling. So if I was struggling, Q must have been struggling too, given the amount of water we both had in our jugs. So I was like, let's save our energy for the immunity challenge and go from there. And so that's one of the things that went wrong for me. But I actually had a sense that it was going to be me. I was 90% certain it was going to be Jess, but deep down in my gut, I was like, if they're smart, which I know they are, they would get me out. I mean, I'm acting a fool out here. Survivor, we all have the same goal. That's to be sole survivor. And to get there, though, you have to have allies. And if you have someone just acting for themselves like I was doing, you're going to get voted out. I was acting a fool.
So it was more of a mutual decision than we really got to see between you and Q about stopping the sweat early. We also saw this funny bit about the word several. So how crucial was the true definition of several to you to making that decision? Had you known it was just more than 2 hours, would you have
Oh
done it
man.
differently?
Well, yeah, if I knew the sweat task we were given 4 hours to do. And so me thinking several meant seven actually had I didn't think anything of it at the time, but as I started collecting my thoughts afterward, I was like, man, that was like an impossible task. It was so hard. They gave us several hours to do it. Said it would take several hours, but they only gave us four. So that was kind of like in retrospect, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but it was definitely a mutual decision, if not more of a Q decision. And this is certain because Q and I both bonded about being from Memphis. My family's from Memphis, Tennessee, and that's where Q lives. And the Memphis mentality is grit and grind. So you don't quit. You don't quit in Memphis. And it wasn't even on my radar. It wasn't even in my mind to quit until Q had presented it to me. And I was like, that might be better. We might be able to rest up before we actually have to compete in the immunity challenge.
Interesting. So obviously his perception of you changed after that point. Where do you think it went wrong, or he started to see you differently?
Yeah, well, I mean that was a huge moment. And I mean whether that's what he wanted to test or not, like if I was a quitter, I mean it is what it is. But that's definitely a moment that shifted it because it's very interesting to look at that situation because if he had never presented that to me, I would not have quit. I promise you that. And if but since he did, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, we're both struggling, so yeah, why would we put ourselves through this? I would say that's the moment for sure.
Another big moment is the journey. You volunteer to go. You see Tevin and Maria there. Did you guys have any chance to exchange information before the game of deception started?
No, we immediately had to do the game of deception, and that was also something that was interesting to watch because off the jump, Maria presented us with the question. She goes, "What color was the pin on the voting parchment card?" I knew the color. I knew the color of the pin was blue. So I was harping that I had the voting parchment card, and Tevin didn't know what color the pin was. So for the longest time, Maria actually thought that I had the voting parchment card. And
How long did that go on for?
I would say probably 2 minutes. And that was a lot longer than what was shown on TV. And the reason I conceded was, I mean, you saw Tevin Davis, man. He's just such a large personality. I mean, that monologue, man, like Tevin had me hyped. Like, how could you? He's just so what's the word? He's charismatic and enigmatic. Or what's the word I'm looking for?
He's an
Like
enigma. He has charisma.
enigma. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. And so as we kept going, I was like, you know, why would I go to camp with 12 enemies and a vote, then come back to camp with 2 allies and no vote, especially when I'm in an alliance of 4. So I thought that was the best decision to make at that time.
But as Tiffany pointed out at the tribal council, you may have made some allies, but it might not carry over to the rest of the tribe. When you're coming back to the tribe, did you think about lying to them at all so you could keep that information to yourself about what happened at the journey?
Yeah, it crossed my mind briefly to lie. But at the end of the day, like I've watched Survivor, I know how their journeys go. At the end of the day, they're probably not going to believe you as it is. And so I understood that coming back in, but that's just a risk that you're gonna have to take when you volunteer to go on the journey. You know what I mean? So I couldn't expect everything to go my way. In fact, nothing went my way. But I mean that's the cards I was dealt, and I wouldn't do it any other way.
So is there anything that you would go back and change if you were back on that beach again and had that second chance?
The one thing I would probably change is quitting the sweat task. That's the one thing I would change. And that's just because that perception of me of being a quitter is just, it's kind of outrageous. Like the move to fold on the journey, like that was a strategic move. And in fact, like everyone I'm speaking with, everyone has agreed with me, like that was the right call. You know, what is I mean, an extra vote is an incredible advantage, but what is an extra vote and having 12 enemies once you make the merge, compared to having 2 allies and no vote, especially when you have an alliance back home. So yeah, I would love to go back and do that sweat task, man. Like if it's the last thing I'll do, I'll go back to the beach right now by myself and get it done.
We saw your alliance with Q, with Kenzie, with Tiffany. How did they make you feel comfortable so that you going into tribal, you thought it was going to be chess?
Yeah, I'd say it's more so just my crazy brain. They did a good job at just consolidate, like keeping me calm. And I have a very calm demeanor as it is. Like I know I was kind of crazy out there, but like I didn't really let it get to me too crazy. Like I told them off the rip, I was like, tell Jess it's me. That makes sense. So I was completely calm in that. And I like Kenzie took me off. We walked. She was like, dude, like, don't worry. I told Jess like where to put the puzzle pieces. She couldn't do the puzzle either. And Q was like, no, we good. Like obvious. And like it was just apparent, you know, like I'm a huge guy. And like challenge strength wise, like I was just one of the most valuable people there, or so I thought. And I mean, we'll see what happens, but I mean that's just what I thought. So I was not worried. Should have been.
We only got to see you for a short time on the island, but I'm sure you have so many memories you took with you. Is there anything that scenes or moments that you wish that the viewers got to see that would paint, a fuller picture of you and your experience on the show?
No, you know, I think the show did a good job at showing the relationships. I'd say maybe like Banu and I were really close out there. Banu and I bonded a lot. Jess and I were at odds, but we still liked each other as people. I don't know. I'd say just yeah, there's a lot going on. Like day one, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go look for an idol. I told everybody that. Like a game changers Tony move. You know, I was just acting a fool. That night when the shelter collapsed, everybody was asleep an hour before that. But they woke up because they're like, where's Jelinsky? Jelinsky was out looking for an idol. And I got caught. Kenzie and Banu caught me. They're like, bro, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm looking for an idol. So anyways, before that, they were actually sleeping in that shelter. So I actually saved 3 lives. If the shelter collapsed on them while they were just facing up, man, that would have been That would have been brutal. 3 medevacs in episode 1.
So you were looking for an idol. Tiffany eventually found it. She tells Kenzie and Q. Did you catch any wind that she may have found an idol?
I had no clue. I had no clue. And that was something I thought was super funny in the episode. I heard her say, she goes, we gotta go tell the boys. And then they're all together in the shelter, Q, Kenzie, and Tiff, and then Tiff goes, let's not tell Jelinsky. I'm like, what? But anyways, now I had no idea about that. That was crazy. In fact, I knew she found the beware advantage. I just thought she found it on day 4. I had no clue she found it that early.
What did you learn about yourself through your Survivor experience?
Oh man. What I learned about myself is all the power that you have is within yourself. How you perceive things, how you interact with things, how you feel about things, everything is a individual action. And as you go forward, especially being the first boot, which I'm super honored, by the way. Like, first boot is an awesome position to go out. People don't remember like the 7th person who was voted out. People don't remember sometimes even the runner up, but you always remember the first boot and the winner. So I'm taking it all with stride. I got my head held high, my shoulders back, and I keep moving forward. So just everything's an individual action, and I'm proud of the way I behave.
Yeah, absolutely. You said you wanted to be a legend, and I feel like no one's going to forget this game. This was really memorable. You're right that there are so many like very memorable first boots. Let's say that we bring back themes. There's a first boot season. Who are you aligning with?
Man, I'm aligning with Francesca for sure.
He's a
Reem,
pro.
man, I'm giving away all my secrets right now. Maddie, Zach, I feel with all these guys though. That's the problem. Zane Knight, man, there's just so many good ones. Chicken, there's so many good first boots, like so many to choose from. Yeah, well, maybe they'll be a little bit nicer to me. We'll see.
As a last thing, what's like a piece of advice you would give to future Survivor players that you learned that you never would have known had you not gone through this?
Everything in Survivor is based off of variables, and no 2 seasons of Survivor are the same. I know it might look that way sometimes, but when you're out there, you got to be present. You can't play like it's going to be another season. You got to take everybody for who they are and really get to know them. And yeah, don't try to force things.